The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, recorded a video addressed to the Ukrainian people. It concerns the peace plan proposed by the administration of US President Donald Trump. The head of state stated that this is currently one of the most difficult moments in Ukrainian history. According to him, the country is under intense pressure. Ukraine may soon face a very difficult choice.
About the loss of dignity, or the loss of dignity, or the risk of losing a key partner, or the difficult 28 points, or a harsh winter, the most severe and far-reaching risks.
Zelenskyy noted that Ukraine is expected to give an answer, which he had already given during his inauguration, swearing allegiance to the country. The head of state said that he had pledged to defend Ukraine's sovereignty and independence and would not betray that oath. According to him, the national Ukrainian interests must be taken into account.
The national Ukrainian interest must be taken into account. We are not making loud statements. We will calmly work with America and all our partners.
Soon after, Vladimir Zelenskyy reported on his Telegram channel that he had a phone conversation with US Vice President J.D. Vance and US Secretary of the Army Daniel Driscoll. According to him, they discussed many details of the American peace plan. Zelenskyy noted that Ukraine, together with America and Europe, will work at the advisor level to ensure that the path to peace is viable. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump stated that next Thursday is the appropriate deadline for making a decision on the peace plan for Ukraine. According to the Washington Post, Washington is currently pressuring Kyiv to sign a peace agreement. However, the peace plan, prepared without the participation of Ukraine and Europe, contains many unworkable provisions. The article notes that it may take at least a year to agree on provisions acceptable to Ukraine.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, commenting on the US peace plan for Ukraine, stated that the Ukrainian authorities will not make any sharp statements and are focused on clear and honest work. The American side has provided its proposals, the points of the plan to end the war, their vision. From the very first days of the war, we have maintained one extremely simple position. Ukraine needs peace, and real peace is the kind that will not be broken by a third invasion. According to the Ukrainian leader, it is precisely these conditions that must be ensured. He outlined exactly what is fundamentally important for us, and we agreed that our teams would work on these proposals so that it would be genuine. We will not make any sharp statements and are focused on clear and honest work. Zelenskyy recalled that in recent days there have been many conversations with European leaders. We expect to speak with President Trump in the coming days. We understand that America's strength and support can truly bring peace closer, and we do not want to lose that. We also understand that Russia has no real desire for peace, otherwise they would not have started this war. There are many assessments, quite fair ones, that all year Russia has been trying to do only one thing: to delay sanctions and buy more time for war. On November 20th, the American delegation handed President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy a draft peace plan. A number of Western media outlets have revealed additional details of the so-called 28-point U.S. peace plan, which senior Trump administration officials led by Witkoff had been secretly developing over the past few weeks in consultation with Russian envoy Kirill Dmitriev. The document allegedly provides for the transfer of the entire Donbas to Russia, including territories it does not currently control. Ukraine must also give up its weapons and cut its army in half. The Kremlin refused to confirm the authenticity of the peace plan for Ukraine. A corresponding statement was made by the spokesperson for the President of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Peskov.
In this particular case, we actually have no real innovations beyond what we truly call the unique spirit of anchorage. We have no new developments.
Soon after, Peskov stated that Moscow had not yet been informed of Ukraine's agreement to negotiate according to Trump's peace plan. Ukraine is ready to engage constructively in working on the peace plan it received from the American side. However, the state has outlined clear red lines regarding the country's territorial integrity and sovereignty. This was stated by Kristina Hayavyshin, Deputy Permanent Representative of Ukraine to the UN during a meeting of the UN Security Council.
First of all, while Ukraine is ready for constructive negotiations aimed at ending the war, including at the level of our leaders, our red lines are clear and unshakable. We will never recognize, either unofficially or in any other way, the temporarily occupied territory of Ukraine by the Russian Federation as Russian.
Gayavyshin added that Ukrainian land is not for sale, so Ukraine will not agree to any restrictions on its right to self-defense or on the size and capabilities of its armed forces.
We will also not tolerate any encroachments on our sovereignty, including our sovereign right to choose the alliances we seek to join. Any genuine peace process must uphold the fundamental principle of nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine, nothing about Europe without Europe. And let me be just as clear. We will not reward the genocidal intent underlying Russian aggression by undermining our identity, in particular our language.
The Deputy Permanent Representative also noted that achieving peace requires increasing both financial and military assistance to Ukraine.
Strengthening Ukraine's defense capabilities is not an escalation. It is the only way to compel Russia to participate constructively in international peacekeeping efforts.
Gayavyshin emphasized that the Putin regime will not stop unless pressure is applied to it. Earlier, the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that in 1991, the Russian Federation unilaterally imposed its membership in the United Nations and usurped the USSR's seat on the Security Council. As the Ukrainian Ministry of Foreign Affairs emphasizes, Moscow took the seat of a permanent member of the UN Security Council, bypassing the necessary procedures solely on the basis of a letter from then-Russian President Boris Yeltsin. At the same time, the UN Charter does not mention the Russian Federation, nor does Article 13 of the Charter, which lists the permanent members of the Security Council.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy discussed the peace plan with European leaders. The head of state held a phone conversation with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, French President Emmanuel Macron, and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Zelenskyy stated that work is underway on a document prepared by the administration of US President Donald Trump. According to him, this should be a plan that ensures a just peace. The Telegraph reports that the United Kingdom will offer Ukraine NATO-style security guarantees as part of Trump's plan. The day before, Axios reported on this, citing a draft agreement. According to this provision, any future deliberate armed attack by Russia on Ukraine will be considered an attack threatening the peace and security of the transatlantic community. This means that the US and its allies will respond accordingly, including the use of military force. Volodymyr Zelenskyy recorded a video address to the people of Ukraine. He stated that this is currently one of the most difficult moments in Ukrainian history.
Right now, the pressure on Ukraine is among the heaviest it has ever faced. At this moment, Ukraine may be facing a very difficult choice. Either the loss of dignity or the risk of losing a key partner. Either the difficult 28 points or a harsh winter.
Zelenskyy noted that Ukraine is expected to respond. However, according to him, he already gave his answer back in 2019 during his oath of allegiance to Ukraine, when he pledged to defend its sovereignty and independence
Of the country. The national Ukrainian interest must be taken into account. We are not making any loud statements. We will calmly work with America and all our partners.
Zelenskyy emphasized that he will do everything possible to ensure that the war comes to an end as a result. The press secretary of the Russian dictator Dmitry Peskov uses threats and intimidation to pressure Kyiv into negotiations on terms favorable only to the Kremlin. In particular, the representative of the aggressor country stated that continuing the war is dangerous for Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Ukraine. In this case, the Russian army would allegedly seize even more territory. Peskov is trying to threaten, implying that the issue needs to be resolved right now. Peskov's statements appeared after reports that the occupying forces had allegedly captured the Ukrainian city of Kupiansk. On November 20th, the chief of the aggressor country's general staff, Valery Gerasimov, fabricated a story about the encirclement of 15 Ukrainian armed forces battalions during a report to the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. In addition, he also reported the alleged capture of Yampol in the Donetsk region. Gerasimov's statement was refuted by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. On the agency's Facebook page, it was stated that the leadership of the aggressor country continues to invent cheap informational provocations. The General Staff reports that Kupiansk is under the control of Ukraine's defense forces.
Counter-sabotage operations and special actions to search for and eliminate enemy sabotage and reconnaissance groups are ongoing in the city and its surroundings. A similar situation is unfolding in Yampol as well. Search and strike operations by our troops continue in the area of the settlement.
The claim about the alleged capture of 80% of the city of Vovchansk in the Kharkiv region and 70% of Pokrovsk is also not true. The General Staff recalled that similar statements about the capture of Kupiansk and Pokrovsk were made as far back as a month ago. The agency writes that yet another lie from the Russian General Staff is aimed solely at concealing the critical losses of the Russian army. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy held a joint phone conversation with French President Emmanuel Macron, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. The President's office reported that the leaders discussed a draft peace plan to end the war in Ukraine.
More than 600 Russian tourists have been stranded on a cruise ship off the coast of Turkey. The vessel has not been allowed to enter the port of Istanbul following the recent refusal by the authorities of Krasnodar Krai in the Russian Federation to accept the Turkish ferry sea bridge in Sochi. On board the Russian liner are residents of Krasnodar Krai, Moscow, and Leningrad regions of the Russian Federation. The liner is anchored. Earlier, the Russians did not allow the Turkish ferry to enter Sochi.
We are on the Trabzon-Sochi ferry. We arrived at the port of Sochi on November 6th at 9 a.m. and have been on the water for 3 days. We are staying in one place and there is no information at all.
The ferry was never allowed to dock and it was forced to return to Turkey. Earlier, it became known that Russians have started traveling to Turkey less frequently. The main reason for the decline in interest has been a significant increase in prices for vacations. In addition, Russian citizens have faced problems obtaining or renewing tourist residence permits in Turkey. 90% of applicants were denied according to the Moscow Times. It was also reported that Russians are leaving Turkey en masse due to the authorities' refusal to extend residence permits, as well as rising prices for renting and buying real estate. Russian tourists have also faced difficulties making payments while vacationing in Turkey because Russian cards have been blocked. Citizens of the Russian Federation abroad often shock others with their rude behavior. When checking out of the hotel, the Russians decided to steal about 35 kilograms of various foods and bath supplies. At that moment, they were literally caught red-handed. The Russians claimed that they supposedly hadn't stolen anything but just wanted to take a few treats with them for the road.